entertainment, current events, and Hollywood. Don't miss Creator to Creators, hosted by the filmmaker Meosha, known for the Shudder hit documentary Horror Noir and the acclaimed film Anatomy of an Anti-Hero, Redemption. This show features interviews with filmmakers and creatives from around the globe. Join the fun with guest celebrities and gain valuable insights. Subscribe now and follow Creator to Creators.
Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Creators to Creators today. Today we have a special guest.
Nancy Paton.
Welcome.
How
So
are you?
I'm great. I have my coffee. I'm excited to talk to a filmmaker, a woman, a female filmmaker at that, and all the things and all the other things that you do so wonderfully. I love going back to the beginning. I always say the beginning chart our trajectory in life, our little habits we pick up along the way, follow us into our adulthood. Tell me a little bit about your childhood. What was that like? And when did you kind of, what is it, get bit by the film bug?
My childhood, very complex. I'm a child of immigrants to Australia. So I was born there, but my parents are both Polish. So I grew up in a neighborhood in Australia, kind of. I was probably the only white girl in a sense, but I wasn't even Australian. All my friends were Arabic, Vietnamese, Korean, Greek. We were all very multicultural. I grew up in an extremely multicultural neighborhood, different faiths. All I actually lived across, out of my window was a mosque, the biggest mosque in Sydney. So all my friends were Muslim growing up, even though I'm Catholic. So it was a very interesting childhood. And I guess at the primary school that I went to, I kind of was always the one that was put into like singing roles or theater roles. And so I just loved performing. My mom kind of joined me into all these Polish singing groups and acting groups and absolutely loved it. But I guess, when it comes to film as a kid, life wasn't easy. So I always kind of turned to watching movies to kind of escape the realities of home life, should I say. It's like kind of, it's a fantasy world. It's always been that, I want to be that person. I want to be there, that imagination. So I always kind of knew I guess, yeah, I think at around like 10, I probably knew I was going to go into films. And so I auditioned for a performing arts high school. It's like the best one in the Southern Hemisphere. Anyway, like 2,000 kids audition, there's 50 get in, and I got in, surprising, even though I don't come from that background. And I think that took me on the trajectory of knowing this is what I want to do. And that was a kind of a sign that, what, I'm meant to get out where I am and kind of fulfill my and go on that journey, even though my father hated the idea, my mother was supportive, but that's a long story. But yeah, I think that was just the first sign. And then many signs along the way kept coming along to me. I know you need to stay in this. This is where this is your calling. This is what you're good at. So I think that's kind of, yeah. I think that, yeah, didn't expect that conversation, but yeah, taking me back, way back, 42 years.
Well, you look great.
Oh,
So, would you say that you've always had that kind of personality? Because I think it takes a certain kind of personality to do anything in the arts world or pursue that, even regardless of the pushback that you get from family or someone or people that is, your father that didn't, want that for your career, for yourself.
yeah, I think it was always, I guess I was a little performer as a kid just to keep, I think it was like my way of keeping happiness or like keeping peace, just always entertaining or, just kind of think it was my go-to tactic of making everything better, when you pretend and you play and you get to be anything, right? So I think because of needing that to like survive in a sense, or I then developed that muscle, that performance muscle, that storytelling muscle. I would gravitated to reading plays and watching movies. And I had a great memory, so I would remember like anything. I guess, and maybe that memory was also why was able to do it because I was creative but I get the confidence from having the memory allowed me to be more creative as well. And yeah, I guess I just I guess when you have a vision and a purpose and you want to get out of where you're in, I think you have that drive to do everything you can to make sure you learn everything to get out or to make a better life for yourself. And so that drive always has driven me, and I think that's why I was able to create that space for myself.
I love that. I love that. I mean, you've done so much. I don't know where to begin. And the things that you've done, you know, um, I guess can you share a moment where, in your life where you're going through the journey where you're just figuring out and put one step forward and the other. Like, was it were there times or moments where you were like, I don't know if I can, continue on, or was it hard? Did it get hard along the way, and how did you find yourself or keep
Yeah,
going?
look, I did leave the industry for, I mean, as I said, I went to performance high school, so that was very, did a lot of performance, a lot of TV shows, commercials, there was a lot of things that I did at school. And then I think I started seeing another side to the industry. I think when you're in your teens, you start seeing a different side, which is not what I wanted to be a part of. I think I didn't know, I think you over glamorize the whole industry as a kid. And then when the reality comes, of course, there was a bit of a hatred for the industry. And so I did step away I went to uni and didn't, I was pre-med and I was going to become, I was really, because I wanted to, like, I also had this, like, I guess I did it to change people's perspective. I wanted to help.
Mm.
I have that always, I guess that comes from my mother, because my mother, that's kind of her background. And so I left, and then for quite some time, for 4 years, I really kind of didn't, I was just turned off the industry. And then I did like a work placement for medicine in Papua New Guinea, and because I grew up with these cultures, and that's why I love storytelling and why I love what I do, is because I did it because I wanted to tell stories about my friends and their histories. I mean, I'd have Lebanese coming from civil war. I had people coming from communism. I had so many friends from
Wow.
so many different tragedies because it was this whole influx of people that was coming to Australia at the point due to all these wars going around the world. And now they were all my friends, and the stories I wanted to tell their stories. That's why I kind of, I guess, and my story, my
Mm.
parents' stories, and but then the industry, the reality of the industry, it's not that. It's about, commerciality. It's about fame.
Yeah.
It's a completely different. It was, should I say, when I was that. So, but I went to Papua New Guinea to do 12 weeks as a doctor working in this hospital, and I was meant to come back and do my PhD, and I came back going, no, I'm going back to the arts. And I moved to New York. I actually finished the degree that I was doing. I was like, no, I need to go back to doing that because I wanted to tell the Papua New Guinea, I wanted to tell the doctors I met, the tribal people that I met, the nuns, the priests, all these people that I was for those 12 weeks and the good that they were doing and also the hardships. I was like, oh, I want to tell their stories. I want to write this movie, and I did. I started writing my first movie then because I was just like, you know what, I need
Wow.
to put it on paper. I
Yeah.
want to tell their story. But I knew it wasn't going to be easy because the industry, to do that, I knew I had to go back and learn and take time and create the right friendships, the right circles. Because at that point I was very 22, and I kind of
Yeah.
understood that I'm not just going to go in. I don't want to be an actor. This is not this. I actually need to go and really, it's a long-term game now. This is like my long-term plan, not just my short-term plan, right?
Hmm.
So I knew I had to move to America because it was the land of the industry. And I knew I needed to kind of build and make relations and not rush it too soon because I don't want to go in and I'm not the one that I'm not going to just do something because I've had films offered to me like horrors and different, and I've said no because it's just not my. I just didn't want to tell a story, and
Yeah.
and that's not that it wasn't a good story. It just wasn't. It's
Yeah.
not the reason I'm doing it, and it's not the reason. And I know I want to make choices that I'm going to be happy with. That like my I have children as well now, so that perspective changes. So I don't want to be away from my kids unless I'm doing something that's going to create legacy or going to give them
Mm.
that bone of impact and change, and that they're proud, right?
Yeah.
I don't want to put them in a position. Well, mummy did this for money. She left us. I couldn't live with myself on that. That's my mother never did that. My mom worked really hard, but it was struggle, and I can make their life easier. So yeah. So I mean, I think that kind of was that. I was already 21 or 22 by the time when I moved to New York.
Uh-huh.
Um, and it was that kind of progression, and it has taken years. because it was choices. Yeah, I had choices to go to LA. I could have done, and I knew and I'm glad now I'm seeing all the stuff that's come out in certain
Right.
people. I'm glad I didn't go down certain routes. So I made those choices, and you look at,
Yes.
oh, I was so close on making that this mistake, and thankfully not. So I think, and I guess I've always had someone looking over me in that sense, and I'm really grateful for that awareness of that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, absolutely. I mean, I find it so refreshing that, you said no to something that a lot of people want to say yes to because, people want money and it's quick fix. We live in a time now that everyone's like want to have the fame and fortune and all that stuff, glitz and glamour, but it's not so glitzy as we see.
Yeah.
It comes with other things with that. But I love what you said. You want to tell stories that, t cultural, like di different backgrounds and share those kind of stories. How do you think storytelling can turn cultural borders into emotional bridges between people?
Um, so look, that's something I've been, I've now been in the Middle East nearly going on 14 years.
Wow.
I went in really, I've grown so much of that time, but I've always picked stories and developed stories that have emotional urgency. Like, and
Hmm.
and specifically, and those from that region, because there's a misconception. I mean, specifically in the region, oh, no one's going to want to watch our stories, or no one,
Mm.
oh no, we're not going to ever get international distribution, or people don't care about our culture and our stuff. I'm like that, and I'm like, no, they do, and that's and international, and also women have always been, oh no, I'm not good enough to tell this story. A man's going to tell me. How many men tell women stories? And you're like, what do you know about seasons or periods, or what do you know about this stuff? I mean, but no, and I'm not saying they can't, and that's also not fair. I don't. I'm not. I don't. I think, of course, women can tell men's stories as well, and
Hmm.
that's not also. But I do think, we need to allow from within. We need the people from within to tell their story, not from outside coming in and
Yeah.
an American man telling a story about a Saudi woman. That's just not fair. I think a
Hmm.
Saudi woman has the right to tell a story, and that shift and I'm seeing audiences wanting to watch those stories now again, which is exciting. And they really, because that's where the cultural shift happens. That's where the connectivity happens between different regions. Not when we just see a story by someone about a region that we're looking at from afar, but when it's told by the person from within. That's when we connect and we authentically we feel something, and then we feel something for them, and then we can open that conversation together. But if someone else tells you about them, it doesn't. It's like, oh, it's just against a photograph or something distant. It's not, it doesn't bridge that bridge. It needs to be told by the person going through it with their perspectives. And we might not like what we see. That's fine. It's okay not to
Right.
agree with what they say, but it is important they say it their way, not the way we think we should say it. That's what I've been looking for.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. And I think that's so important. I'm curious too. You said, obviously, men can tell female stories, but it's just something different when it's from a woman's perspective because it's like, okay, it's a woman telling a woman's story, which is so refreshing to see. What does I don't know, feminine lens mean to you in today's film industry?
Look, I think, um, you know, as I said, I'm not saying about just women telling women's stories because again, I love working with men. I had great mentors. I've been very lucky, but I think we've seen so much from the men's perspective for so long, and it's really time to allow women to do that, to tell their versions, because they're going to show a different shift in how power is portrayed, how emotions explored, how characters are seen. We do see things differently. And I mean, we all see things differently, right? But I'm just saying, I want to see those perspectives. I want to see women of color. I want to see women from different backgrounds. I want to see women, young women. I want to give the opportunity to
Mhm.
young girls having the opportunity to make movies, not just all these old men in their 80s and 70s. I'm like, I really want to, and I want to give women, I want to see, like Jodie Foster, she does already a lot of films, but
Yeah.
older women as well, telling, but because I think it's necessary. And then, uh, it's necessary for so many reasons, but we just don't know why yet. I mean, I think we just because we haven't seen it, we actually don't know what will happen when we do get more films from women. We don't have them,
Yes.
like,
We don't.
and we need more, like, we talk about a million, and then we can say who's the best person to make that movie. Because right now it's like, oh, well, this guy's got 100 movies under his CV and she's got three, so he's definitely the better picker. She's only got,
Mm,
she hasn't had the opportunity, right? And you're
mhm.
like, well, okay, maybe when she's had 100 and she's made mistakes like this guy, and you put them together, then let's decide who can tell the male perspective better. Right? Like, I mean, I'm pretty sure the woman might be able to as well,
Mhm.
right? So I want to even up that balance. We need to invest more in women filmmakers and women's stories. Just until it balances itself out, that then it really is a fair game of what
Yeah.
is correct and what really audiences want, because we only know what audiences want by what men have told us that they want.
Yeah,
Because
exactly.
so, do we really know what audiences even want, right? And that's another
Yeah.
question. Seeing such a shift there. So, yeah, sorry.
No, I love this. I think it's so important to talk about because, being a filmmaker and, myself, you hear that you get in the business, you go to school for it, you get in the business and you don't, and it's like, it's such a letdown because you're just thinking, I just want to work. And if you're not in the boys club, then it's like you're not really working as much as you really want to. And then there's things that you got to do to just be in the club, and you're like, it kind of goes against your morals sometimes. You know what I mean?
My daughter just came in.
Oh,
Hello.
hello. She's so
I'm so
cute.
sorry.
I know.
Yeah,
I love it. I love that you can balance that.
yeah.
I did the, what do you call it? Chose the I'm going to be married to the game. And then I get older. I'm just like, oh, maybe having a family was a good idea. And everyone's having families.
And I think it's those choices. I waited later, and then, I mean, yeah, look, I have a very great mother who helps me out a lot. So I'm so blessed in that sense that I can have her to help me out when I need her. Because I couldn't be, and I wouldn't be a mother if I didn't have the help, because it is very difficult. And I think you got to be at the right time in the right place. And thankfully, I was blessed to I have the support, so then I can take away and be, when I'm filming, my mom moves in for the time period and she's there. So who's better than having granny
Beautiful.
and kids, and it's so important for them. So yeah. But your question, so sorry, before my daughter came in, I kind
No,
of
no,
missed a
it's
bit.
okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. It's so cute. I love those moments. Yeah, yeah, it's, I don't know. I feel like there seems to be, I think it was Rose McGowan came out and talked about all this. And I was just like, things that you hear when you're when you're working in the business of Hollywood, or just in the entertainment business as a whole. She categorized it as a cult. And I was just like, wow. Thank God I didn't experience that part of
Yes.
the industry
Yeah.
to
I think
that
that's why I moved
extent.
to the States.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so much better there.
I moved to much safer.
Yeah.
So
But there's a really misconception, sorry, of like people saying, well, you have to be in Hollywood to be a successful filmmaker. You know,
it
you
depends
went
what you
out
want.
and did something
Uh,
else.
I think what success is. I mean, everyone has different visions of success, right? And I think
Yeah.
I think that's where I've really, I mean, as I said, my vision of success was to create content, or we're talking about content creation, but films that
Yeah.
move people. And I knew that when I was living in New York, and as I said, opportunities to move to LA, and I didn't. I moved to London after that because I was like, I don't have to do it here. I've learned everything I needed to learn. I'm really grateful for that experience, and I will come back. And I love, and I go a lot now to LA and to New York for work, and I love it. Don't get me wrong, but I knew I had to go to London, and then I moved to the Middle East because I knew the stories that I was making were not going to be. They're not for that audience yet. That audience doesn't exist.
Mm,
Place I want to be in, and I need to find European cinema is definitely more aligned with what I envisioned as a kid. That's what I grew up on as well. So I kind of already knew the indies, and that was in Europe. That's so strong, those voices. So I knew I had to kind of cultivate and understand that. And then I knew that when I moved to the Middle East again, I was about making stories that change perception. And that was a place for me that was the most underrepresented and the most far like wrongly represented place in the world. So it really made sense to me kind of dive in there and kind of see how does that fit into this industry. And now we're seeing how amazing that choice has been. But um, and I think for me, and then those choices were because I wasn't going there to be, on the red carpet or the festivals or like, the Oscars. That's not what was driving my decisions. And I think I'm even now know, I think the most successful moments for me, I remember we're at a film festival, but yes, we're at a film festival for one of our films, Emirati film about autism. And I was in a line, and I wasn't going to my film, we're going to another film. And I was standing with my director, and there was a group of women behind us around their 70s, and middle American, like very, I'm going to just say how it was going. But and I started listening, and this woman, one of the little ladies, to her friend goes, "Oh, what's been the best film you've seen at the festival?" And she's like, "You know what? My friend took me to this film yesterday, and I really wouldn't want to go because it's an Arab film, and I don't like the culture." She started really ripping in a not a nice way, should I say? And I'm like, "Oh." I'm saying like, oh my God, she had film and my director who's Emirati standing there, and I'm like, oh, just don't look around, just look forward. And he's like, you know what? It was so good. It's the best film I've seen here. And then and I'm going, oh wow, okay. And then the woman, she's like, I was crying, and she started like talking about, and the woman's like, oh, what was it called? She's like, oh yeah, they're old ladies. Ah, it was something a boy, and like she didn't even know the name of the film. And then she's like, and then what country was it? She's like, I don't know, somewhere in the Middle East. And I turned around and I said, look, was it called Mountain Boy? And she's like, yeah, Mountain Boy. Have you seen it? It was such a good movie. I mean, and then I was like, and I'm like, oh, and she's like, I'm like, it's in the United Arab Emirates. And she's like, yes, that place. And she's like, oh, you're the producer and the director. She looked at me and she's like, oh my God, I'm so sorry about what I said. I'm like, don't worry, actually it made my day because I've been able to change your perspective. That you actually were
Mm,
open to go somewhere about a culture that you disrespected and really had a completely different view. And you've come out going, I'm really moved. And you're telling people to go watch my movie. You've made my day. And we kind of hugged, and it was a really beautiful moment. And that for me was success. I felt more
yes.
people there then, that moment, going to that festival, even me and Dara, why are we going to this place? They're gonna hate. And I'm like, no, it's the point of this movie was to do this. The point was to create impact. And we need to be the face of it. We need to meet with these people to see and to talk to them about this stuff, to help them understand. If we don't go, we haven't finished our mission, our purpose of the movie. And that, I mean, we had many of those experiences along the way, but I mean, I think that for me is success. So, I mean, everyone has their own, and there's nothing wrong with wanting a Lamborghini and living in Hollywood Hills. There's nothing wrong with, I'm not saying, I think everyone has a different process and a different journey. And I mean,
Yeah.
and when you're 20s, you want that. In your 30s, you want this. In your 50s, you want this. And you move and you're malleable and you change. And it's okay to be honest, just be honest and authentic in who you are. And I think that's the best thing. And I'm happy with friends who just want a Lamborghini. And I love them too. And that's their purpose. And I would support their films. They have a pure mission. Like, great, just know what, be honest, and then we can communicate and be friends, and we can do stuff together. If it's, you're saying this and doing something else, it can be quite disheartening, and I think you won't survive in the industry. I think that's the yeah,
Yeah, it's
yeah.
true. I love what you said about, just, what you're doing and creating and just ha changing people's perspective. And I think that's a beautiful thing. Do you think that also, yeah, you have a production company, which is so awesome. We live in a time where people say it's important to ownership. Do you think it's more important today for creators to focus on ownership, um, or distribution, or both?
Okay, so I mean, I worked for production houses in the States and UK, but run by men. So I always, and thankfully enough, they were great men. So I'm very happy for that. But again, the content and the hiring was predominantly male, and I had seen that, knowing that the only way I was going to make it, and again, I went into wanting to make movies and making
Hmm.
content and create films that I knew could create impact. But then
Hmm.
I realized that me doing it is not enough. And there's so many women that have so many great stories that started meeting. And I'm like, who's helping them? And that's where the whole, if I don't open, it's not for me, it's actually to help the other women so they have a home where they can come to and
Yeah.
say, hey. So we develop a lot of stories. We help a lot of women go for funding and try to get, package their stuff to help them go out and make their movies. And because there's no one else, it's you need women in ownership places. I mean, that's something I think, I'm not going to go on, but you don't see any studios right now run by women, do you? You don't even, the decision makers, the powerful people are predominantly men. And even if you have a woman, I mean, I think it was the film Substance, right? They made it by a studio and
Ah,
then there was the scene.
yeah.
He hated it. And even though the woman was the vice CEO, she didn't stick up for it because she was so scared she'd get fired. And I'm like, so what's the point of you being in that position if you can't even make the
It's
change for women? And I'm
uh-huh.
like, even women in positions right now in these spaces are still afraid to make the change for the women. So the only way I thought, I mean, if I go work for another company, am I going to still be afraid to lose that job because I'm working for a male
Mm,
company with male? So I was like, I've got to open my own because then I
yeah.
don't have to report to anyone else and I get to choose the projects and I can choose the financiers I work with. I can choose the, people, brands I associate with. I can choose that becomes, otherwise I will still be living in an extremely male world, which again, as many women want to go down that path, and I think they should. There is nothing wrong with that. I just
Yeah.
think that my purpose and vision was I wanted to create impact, seeing more female stories.
Yeah.
So I create a space where hopefully I could help other women do that as well, because my voice isn't just enough. We need more of us talking the walk, walking the walk, not just talking the talk. So
Absolutely. Oh,
yeah,
so good. Talking, not just talk the talk, but walk the walk. Yeah, like action. Yeah. Yeah,
yeah.
because a lot of people
Actually,
say a lot of things.
yeah. Yes, when you talk about creators, I think it's really where you're at. You need a team. You need support. You can't do it on your own. You need to
Yeah.
find your group of people, and either that's going to be under your umbrella, and you're going to have that,
Hmm.
or it's going to go going in-house of the people. You might try one and go to another. As I said, I've been doing this for a while, so I'm at a very different stage to maybe someone that's coming in. But I think. I mean, I think the biggest thing as well right now, you see a lot of people trying to. I mean, I'm not wearing any makeup today. I was like, I'm completely Sunday
You
bumming it
look
with you.
beautiful.
Like, I think because I was trying to like, I'm always like, it's okay. There are events I got to look perfect. There are events, but this with content creation being perfection and not being able to
Hmm.
do it until looking perfect or being perfect, or or asking for permission to create. Unless someone asks me, just go do it and whatever it is, and don't have to wait for. And you will go and change, and people will change with you. But if you are
Hmm.
waiting for that permission, no one's going to give it to you. No man's going to.
Oof.
You just own that space. And then you've also got to own it, even if you're not liking your best, because the reality is, and especially with AI coming and everything moving, the more authentic you're going to be with AI, the better, the more longevity you're going to have. And that's where
Yeah.
I think that's the shift that content creators have to realize, that it is just you trying to sell something, or you don't believe in, or you don't, and you game, it's not going to work anymore. People aren't going to follow. Yeah, I think it's going to be a big change.
Yeah. And also speaking of AI, that's a big one. A lot of people are very scared of that. But I think if I don't know, how do you feel about AI? Is it something that you're like not really into, or you're just
Um,
like,
oh no, I mean, we've been exploring it now for like a year and a half. I mean, I think it was
oh,
even before last camp. I'm going to, yeah. So like probably at the beginning of last year, we already were trying some tools out, and people are showing stuff. So it's been in my periphery, and of course, I haven't used it, and I don't want to use it right now. I mean, not haven't
mhm,
used it, of course, get for emails and like this and that here and there, but I don't think for storytelling. I don't think I don't think we should. It helps with efficiency. I get it. It helps with
mhm,
some maybe development, some visualization, some processes, some research. I think definitely use it for all that. I don't think it will. I think we still need the human perspective, the lived experience, the emotional truths that can't be automated. I think we need to. It can enhance the creativity, but it can't
yeah,
replace our humanity and our um, storytelling perspectives and our vision. And we got to be careful. My worry is, it is run on statistics and facts, and
mhm,
anything that's got what is already being put into the world, into the AI world. So a lot of it, again, has been put in by men. A lot of it that's been written is written by men. So that's why one of my things right now is I'm really pushing on women doing still films in the art of film, and
mhm,
getting more women to have those CVs of 100 films made in film, or made, actually with real sets, real locations, so that when they do use the AI tool, and then the AI kind of it learns from all these movies that they're making, it has then that better woman's perspective. Because I think when the woman goes into it now, it's always going to get thoughts and I'm scared that we might feel, oh, but the AI said it's this, or chasing that algorithm, oh, the AI gets this. I'm like,
Hmm.
no, the AI knows the algorithm from what it's been given. That doesn't
Hmm.
mean this film have an audience. It doesn't mean this film, and I think the more we do what the AI says, where it is now, without growing it still and growing it with a woman's voice, which I think was
Yeah.
what we really got to be focusing on. And women, not just I'm not just using the AI to make movies, that's for me. I'm actually making the movies is what I until we've made that, gender gap and that whole gap between,
Yeah.
and then the AI has a better algorithm it can make, because currently I don't think the algorithms and the things are, yeah, they're not there. So yeah, that's my kind of
Yeah.
AI.
What
Yeah.
advice would you give to that woman or man out there?
Yeah.
Not to forget the men, because we don't hate
Yeah.
men over here,
No, no,
but we
100%.
definitely need more
I,
women.
yeah, no, and I'm working with men and men working with women. I think,
Yeah.
working more together. And so this being a very male production or this being a very female production, actually being a
Yeah.
working together production. Yeah. But go on.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah.
No, you're good. Um, what advice would you give to them when, starting out or just, trying to figure it out in this interesting business that this we're in?
I mean,
How are they going to
I
continue to
think,
grow?
I think, I think creators right now don't realize the power that they have. I think we are all more powerful than we think, specifically
Hmm.
with AI coming. I mean, coming in a bigger, we're seeing so much created content that's AI now generated. So
Hmm.
when you're coming in a space, you being authentic and real from the start is going to be how you're going to be different from whatever kind of exists there currently, right? There's already so much.
Yeah.
So I think I said don't wait for permission, don't be perfect, but also, before you go out, really know who you are. I mean,
Mm.
your voice will change, but at that moment, be aware of what you want to say and how you want to say it, and then go say it. And then, but be aware that you've got to be you, because yeah, I think that, yeah, I don't know. I think because yeah, I don't know. I think that's what I'm going to say on that.
I love
I,
it.
I think I think just go I think go try it, but you have a responsibility, right? As a creator,
Mm.
you have a bigger, so you got children, you got adults, you got culture, you got people looking at you from everywhere. Your
Yeah.
responsibility to be liked or hate or whatever. And it might not be what people want to hear. That's not a problem if it's true and you got
Hmm.
actual proof and you're doing it from the heart. And but again, you have a space where you could do some really good in this world right now. And I think we really need it as well.
I
So
love that.
uh, I think I wish, yeah, some creators would come out and be, yeah, more thoughtful in that way and responsible, and start thinking about the great impacts they could create from the power that they have.
Beautiful, beautiful. Uh, are you working on anything currently at the moment, or you have something out that you like sh to share with us?
Yeah, well, we were about to film a film on the 14th of April, but it got
Mm.
postponed,
Mm.
sadly, due to the situation in our country. But we'll hopefully be
Yeah.
filming it in October. So I'm really excited about that, because I think now it's even more important than the movie at the time. I mean, the movie's a great film about a Emirati girl and a British boy. They don't speak the same language, but a friendship. And I think now with what's going on, I think it's even more important. So I'm just hoping the situation ends quite soon so we can get back into production.
Hmm.
So that's something I am really looking forward to making, because again, it's a powerful story. It's a story I think that's more important to people understand these cultures. And then I've been also working on a book that
Awesome.
I'd been working on it for a while, and I'm now getting close to getting it across the line. So I'm again about cultural relations, and I think that's hopefully make a movie out of that one as well. So that's kind of
All
my next
right.
next keeping myself busy while the world cleans
It's
itself up.
crumbling. Yeah, well, or yeah, that's a good way to say it. Cleaned itself up. I'm sorry, I said crumbling.
Yeah, I think
Yes.
time it's, yeah. So I just I'm just refocusing slightly just until everything gets back on track. So just not
Yeah.
just to, because I will come back, and we'll be stronger, and we are resilient humans that we can yeah, hopefully come out of this. So yeah.
Awesome. Really quick, my last question. I love asking this question, and there's no wrong answer, I promise. But the three levels of influence: money, power, and respect. And if you could choose only one of those things, which one would you choose and why?
Always respect.
Beautiful.
Always respect. I think that's why I will say no or yes to things because I think um, I think you have to you got to respect people. You've got to respect yourself. You have to you all this industry is working with people, and you can't work unless you respect them. You will fail. You might have all the money in the world. You might have all the power in the world. But that power goes, as we've seen people fall, and they you can't get it back, and the money goes, and you can't get it back. But when you get respect gone, I mean, that one is the hardest, and so I think you that's the most important because that one you can't. Like, if you are respected, people that stays, and that causes influence, and that causes real power, should I say?
Yeah,
For
definitely.
because that's real friendships and real connectivity, and that only happens through respect, I think. Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful. Where can people find you on social media to follow everything you got going on?
Oh, I'm on Nancy.Paton on Instagram. That's my website. Desert Rose Films is my company.
All
We're an
right.
Abu Dhabi female-based film production company. So yeah, looking forward to reaching out. Looking forward to meeting you in person next time I'm in LA.
Absolutely, absolutely. And thank you so much
Yeah.
for coming on. It was a pleasure. And thank you all for listening. And always remember to live, love, laugh. We'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.